There are so many people with amazing personal stories, and I spend so much time looking at celebrities with no makeup on. It's time to change that with regular amazing people. Okay, so hello, Amber.
Hello, Dirk. Good to see you.
You too. Long time.
I know.
Ah, so we've talked a little bit briefly, and we're here today to talk about your amazing or challenging journey for the last couple of years with breast cancer. But first, I was going to ask you because I knew you when you were, oh my gosh, I met your brother. So your brother's one of my best friends,
Yes.
and so I probably met you when I was in seventh or eighth grade, would be my guess. So you
I
would
was
have been,
out to St. Charles. Aaron was in seventh. I was in fourth grade.
yeah,
And you guys were friends shortly thereafter,
yeah.
right?
So I would have met you about when you were in fourth, maybe fifth grade. Yeah.
So I was about, my daughter's 10, 11. I met you when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I'm 45 now.
There you go.
A long time.
you know. So tell me, before we get into your story, your recent story,
Mhm.
I'm really curious because your life, your career path, and where it took you, and how you met your husband and put your family together. That's interesting to me too. And I thought maybe you could spend just a few minutes going over that from the time you got out of high school to bringing your family around.
Right. Okay. Let me sum it up in a few minutes. So after high school, went to University of Missouri, and I was on the dance team, part of the Golden Girls there. And our coach at the time had been a San Francisco 49ers cheerleader who had married a guy and lived in Missouri and became our coach. She brought to my attention the idea of working for a dance company called USA, United Spirit Association, based out in California, which is where she was from. So I sent in, from being from Missouri, this was 1995, put my dancing skills on VHS
Yeah.
and did an interview like this, but talking to a camcorder, and applied to be at the company. They hired me. So during my college summers, after my first year, my first freshman year summer, I just came home. But after that, I would spend my summers out in California teaching dance camps to high school and eventually college and some pro teams. And I went all over California and fell in love with California, and I loved working for USA. It was a wonderful experience. I don't think anyone has worked there and said otherwise. It's just a great company to work for. Met some fantastic people. Graduated from college and went back home, live with parents, and got a call from USA couple of months later, and said, hey, there's a company, there's an NFL Europe, and they're opening up a new team in Berlin. Would you be interested in becoming their dance director, coach, choreographer? And I said, yeah, sure. That sounds fantastic. So I did the same thing, put all my videos, this is 1998, mind you, putting everything on camcorders and video, and sending it over to Germany. And long story short, after a few months, got the job. And basically it was like, you're hired. Can you be here in 10 days and run your auditions? And I said, yeah. And don't even I'm like, what's Germany like? Berlin, like, where, not where is it, but what's it like, that kind of stuff. And internet wasn't utilized the way it is now. So I didn't think just to go on the internet and search. I mean, you're still talking
Right.
to people and gathering books at the bookstore to read up about things, whatever. So anyway, I went over there in the fall of 1998, and ended up staying there for almost 5 years. And that's where I met my husband. We met through some mutual acquaintances, and I knew immediately when I met him that this was going to be my husband. I told my mom I fell in love with a German. She cried because she thought, oh gosh, now my daughter's never going to come home.
Right.
And we got married. And after we were married, we kind of just realized it wasn't really the smartest thing for us to stay in Germany, because the NFL European League was volatile, And so it just seemed not the safest bet to stay there. So we ended up closing up shop in Germany and deciding to start our lives in America, which we knew we were going to be in America for the long term anyway. Mm-hmm. So we said, let's just do it now versus waiting. My husband was in university at the time in Germany. So we kind of cut the cords there and moved to America and went back and lived with mom and dad in Missouri because I hadn't been in America for 5 years. I didn't have credit cards. I had no credit history. My husband was a resident. He didn't have any, we didn't have anything. And moved out to North Carolina. After a few months living with my mom and dad, realized we needed to start somewhere. And my brother, being in clinical research, was the one who told Thomas, with his university and dental history background, he was actually in university to become a dentist, said, I think you might enjoy what I do, but not the computer programming side, get onto the more the clinical side. And that's how it all began. And Aaron said there's a huge research hub in North Carolina called the Research Triangle Park. And so we drove out there one week and started sending out resumes galore. And of course, without an address there, nothing happened. But we decided we liked it, drove back to St. Louis and gathered up enough money to last for 3 months. So we thought, we'll just travel. So just went out to North Carolina, and I got a job within a month for a meeting planning company, and he got a job in clinical research. And basically that's that's how it all began for us. Then we left North Carolina, had a few kids in North Carolina, and didn't like staying out there without any family. That was hard. And just kind of realized this wasn't where we wanted to be. We knew we both wanted to be in the West Coast. So we decided to wrap it up in North Carolina. Everyone thought we were crazy. When we tell people our story, they're like, you're so nuts. Or at least back then it was considered crazy. I know people are a lot more mobile now, but back then. So we left North Carolina, came back to the Midwest to be near my mom and dad and my family, thinking with these kids, and my husband traveled for work, I wanted a little bit more of a support system around me. And being in Missouri for a few years, realized, okay, this wasn't our end all either. We really wanted to make it out west, and his company had an opening in California, and he applied, got the position, and we moved out west, and we've been in San Diego since 2012. It's now 2020, and we don't plan to leave.
That's awesome. How old are your kids now? My
oldest is, she's 14.
Okay.
I'm in the even years right now. We're 14, 12, and then 10.
Okay.
She's about to transition to a 15-year-old, and she acts like she's 17. So it's whatever it is.
Imagine that.
I know.
I might have known somebody like that a long time ago. But.
Yeah, somebody.
Okay, so that's just been fascinating to me for a long time, because you as a dancer, whenever you go into the arts, because I have a BA in theater, so when you go into the arts, it's like people, haven't really used it since college, but people just, anyway, so that's always been fascinating. So let's get to your story now. So tell me about the start of all this and where your journey began, and just tell us about it.
Well, living out in San Diego, I do not work in dance anymore at all. Hung up my dancing shoes, and totally new line of work and stuff. I absolutely love the work I do now, but I noticed, I guess I should say, just one day at work, a lady I worked with had something similar, like a bump, and she had it checked out and it was fine. And then I heard it happens to a lot of women. They can have, lumps here and there on their breasts, had 3 kids, breastfed, this and that. You go through changes. Okay, sounds like aging boobs, After she tells me that, I'm not even kidding. It's probably within 6 months or so, I notice a lump kind of under my armpit off the side of my breast. And I thought, well, that's weird. And it was kind of small, maybe the size of a large pea, something like that. Maybe like a lime, not even a lima bean, just a bean size, kidney bean size, something like that. And I'm like, okay. I'm going to ignore it for now because maybe it'll just go away. Ignored it for a while and then decided to finally go and have it checked out by a doctor just so the doctor could tell me. And the doctor touched it and immediately started talking about cancer. And it really scared me because I just laid there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was 43, I guess, at the time. And he's like, yeah, this could be cancerous. We should have it checked out. Like, just very, his bedside manner was, I mean, piss poor, in my opinion, when you talk about that. So we go and get the mammogram, and it's such in a weird spot. It's behind my breast. It's off to the side. They're not really seeing it in a mammogram. We do an ultrasound, and they say the ultrasound looks fine. It has high fatty hilum, and that means nothing in their eyes, I guess. It's just fine. My husband was there with me. We were both very nervous during my ultrasound. Are you sure? You sure there's nothing to worry about? Oh, no, it is fine. There's nothing. This is nothing. Okay. So the fear from the doctor's appointment because none of this stuff happens within days. There's always a few weeks that go in between. So the mass panic, hysteria, depression that I felt during thinking I have cancer was then weeks later, just, it's nothing. So I go back to the doctor and he says, we can biopsy it. If you want to biopsy it, we can do that, or we can just leave it and just kind of watch it. It's whatever you want to do. And he's really nonchalant with me. So I'm trying to play it cool because he's playing it cool. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe, okay, yeah, we'll just leave it. It's fine. It's whatever. Why cut into my body if I don't need to cut into my body? Yep. So I leave it. And that was in June of 2018. So come January of 2019, past Christmas, I'm recognizing this thing is not going anywhere. But I'm now kind of thinking I'm the one who's crazy because they said it wasn't anything. I don't want to become, I don't want to undo stress. So you try to brush it away, put it in the back of your head or whatever. And then I thought, okay, come springtime, right? I'll go get it checked out. And at the time, my husband was changing companies. Our insurance was in that holding 30-day trial, whatever you call that. There's a holding period. So couldn't schedule anything for the month of April, had to wait till May. I decided to dump the old doctor. I'm going back into my OBGYN.
And this is a year later, right? This is May 2019?
Basically a year later, okay. Yes. And I'm ready to go back. I'm supposed to be getting that mammogram again to check on it, whatever. So I just decided I'm not going to go to that DO that I went to. I'm going to go to my OBGYN. And I don't have one really. So a friend of Thomas's had breast cancer, and she suggested her doctor and said she was amazing. So I go to that doctor. I'm literally there just to get this checked. And she can see it, right? It's protruding from my body. You don't have to feel it. You can see it. If I put my arms out, excuse me. And right away, she just looks at me and says, yep, we're going to get that checked out immediately. And when I told her how long I'd had it, she expedited the process. So I literally was having a mammogram and an ultrasound done within like 3 or 4 days. And then those results, of course, you have to go over the weekend. So now I'm having those feelings are coming back again after a year. And I cannot tell you the initial thoughts. And right away she says to me, you need to meet with a surgeon. Because I think at the time they're thinking, surgeon, I think the route initially was possibly, they never specified this, take it out first and then deal with chemo or radiation afterward type thing. And so I get the results back and I can tell something's really, so again, this mammogram, it's very challenging. It's a diagnostic mammogram. That means they just do it at more angles. And they're just struggling to get this thing into the machine. So we're really relying on this ultrasound. And I had the sweetest tech who was doing my ultrasound, and we're just talking, and she's this gorgeous, like 20-some-odd-year-old girl, just adorable, right? And we're just chatting it up. But I noticed she's staying on that spot, right, for quite some time, and I'm trying to be all cool. My arm's back, I'm losing sensation in my arm, and I'm like, yeah, so you're there for a while. What do you know? And she just kind of at that point, she gets real clinical and quiet. Well, I just got to make sure I'm getting all the right measurements. And then she just kind of becomes more quiet and somber with me. And I'm thinking, okay, don't jump to any conclusions. Maybe she's just doing her job. And this is what, we can't keep talking. So we got to, do what we're here to do.
Yeah.
She leaves, brings the the tech who reads it. I don't know what their name is. My mind is slipping.
Radiologist?
I guess the radiologist. Thank you. The radiologist comes in and is very curt and just says, I'll have the results sent to you. I'm not to speak to you about your results. I'll have the results sent to your doctor who ordered them, and the doctor will discuss with you once I've had a chance to thoroughly look them over. Some BS like that. And at that point, I knew something's not good. So all those emotions that had happened the year before are now right there in my face. On top of that, thinking, why didn't I do something about this a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
I should have just had it cut. All of a sudden, I should have. And then I thought, don't do that. That's extremely negative, and I can't change anything. So sure enough, we have it biopsied right away, and the biopsy is it's all over cancer, right? And it's a ER positive and a HER2 positive cancer.
What is that? I don't know what either one of those means.
ER is estrogen receptive,
Okay.
meaning it feeds off estrogen, if I understand that correctly. And the HER2, HER, I don't remember what that stands for. I'm so sorry. I should have.
No, it's fine.
But it's a protein that is produced. And if your cancer, I do know this, if your cancer is HER2 positive, it tends to be more aggressive and more difficult, I guess, to kind of manage.
Mm-hmm.
So that was not good in mine. And this, like, I asked him about the degree of it. She says it's either HER2 positive or it's not. Even though when you go on the internet and start searching, there's like a higher possibility, the readings, the numbers, and this and that. I think mine was on the higher spectrum of HER2 positivity. But at the end of the day, my doctor said, you're HER2 positive. That's it. So I met with the surgeon first, right? Because that was the first order of business. I go meet with the surgeon, and she basically tells me, I don't think surgery is the wisest option. I think you're going to need to do chemo, and we need to shrink it and kill it and shrink it first.
So had it grown over the year? Like you said, it was a kidney bean size.
It did. So it had stayed the same size from when I initially found it. For about the next 7 months, it had stayed. I think it was in February of 2019, I noticed it felt different. It started becoming bigger, and I don't know, just had a weird feeling around it. And I just knew it's changing. Something's changing. So yes, it had grown a little bit bigger.
And when you first got it, was it, and I'm sorry if this is too specific, but was it like, harder or malleable, and how did that change over time, or did it?
It didn't change. It didn't really change over time. It was harder. It wasn't hard, but like a rock, but it wasn't squishy where I could, push my finger into it and like push it away or something like that. So it was dense. And that didn't change. It just became bigger the few months leading up to the doctor's appointment and having it diagnosed. So it basically moves very fast at that point. Once you are diagnosed, it goes fast. All of a sudden, I'm contacting my, not my insurance, but the organization that my doctors are in, and they're putting me together. And it was really quite a wonderful experience. As weird as that sounds, I had a great experience because once I reached out to Scripps, which is my health, the division they're in, I was given a case manager, and she had me with a radiation oncologist, a surgeon, and a radiation oncologist as a team. They do a team approach because they're connected with MD Anderson. And she said, since you've already met with a surgeon, she's not really part of our group, but we can go ahead and move it around. And I made the decision. I said, no, I want to stay in Scripps. I don't want any miscommunication happening. I want everyone to be housed under the same umbrella. So I left that initial surgeon, even though I liked her very much, she just wasn't part of the Scripps group. So I came over to Scripps and I met with everyone. I had my port placed, and that's my port right there. You can see that bump. And it goes up to a cord right here. And had my port placed, and my first chemo was July 2nd, and I was diagnosed like from the initial thing. It was June 6th is when I got the news, and July 2nd I was starting chemo. 3.5 weeks, something like that. Yeah.
Will that, I don't know, does the port stay in forever, or is it just there until what?
It'll come out. I do. So my regimen, I had 4 drugs. 2 were chemotherapy drugs, and they were Taxotere and carboplatin. Those are my chemo drugs. The other 2 drugs are Herceptin and Perjeta. And the Herceptin and Perjeta are monoclonal antibodies. I will not say any more about that.
But you could if you wanted to.
I don't know. Monoclonal antibodies that basically are suppressing the HER2.
Sure.
They said so I did my 6 rounds of chemo. I got my chemo every 3 weeks, and I asked, should I do it every 2 weeks? Because all of a sudden when you're diagnosed, you're meeting people through friends of friends who have cancer. You can go on Instagram and you just search the hashtag breast cancer, and you find a slew of people to start following. And so you very quickly, you're kind of inundated with, I know this person, I know that person, you should talk to her, and you could talk to this person. And I was like, I can't, I don't want to hear somebody else's story. I don't know what my own story is yet. And I would love to hear it someday, but as of right now, I can only manage myself, and everyone's story becomes very different. It is like, I tell them, it's like pregnancy and birth. Yes, all women get pregnant, but how their pregnancy goes along and the birthing process is extremely individualized per person. How your water breaks. If you end up doing cesarean, if you have natural birth, all these complications and things that can happen that change it, so that every woman who sits there and tells you her birthing story, you're not going to hear the same story twice.
Yep.
I believe it's very similar with cancer. Yes, they have an approach, a shotgun approach to handling it. How you manage your meds, the process, things that can go along issues that can happen along the way, which I'll talk to you about shortly. It changes your story. So I got my drugs. So I asked about that right away. Can I go to 2 weeks? Because I know a lady in Texas who did hers no, because she was triple negative and you're ER positive. This is what we do. My doctor was like, she was very sweet. I absolutely love my radiation oncologist. She reminds me of Sandra Bullock. Looks just like her. And she said, the regimen is every 3 weeks. You'll do 6 rounds, but the Herceptin and the Perjeta, you will stay on for a year. So I will do those until July of 2020. So that's why I keep my port.
Okay.
And then once I'm done with those, the port can come out, and I will just stay on the pill, which is tamoxifen, which I take for 5 to 10 years. The tamoxifen is a estrogen modulator. I don't know. It suppresses my estrogen.
So your estrogen, so your estrogen actually feeds the cancer? Is that?
Understand it correctly, and hope to God there's not a doctor watching this. Yes, my cancer was feeding off of estrogen and the HER2. So the idea to suppress my estrogen, I guess, is a maintenance procedure after the cancer died with the chemo. Okay, so the chemo, because I noticed after my first or second round, and I had a pause in between my first and second because my port got infected with MRSA, and I was hospitalized for 5 days. Wow. Yeah, and that happened. So that pushed my second round. It should have happened, and I had like a 2 weeks. So between 1 and number 2 was 5 weeks for me versus the 3 weeks. I had to have it removed. I had a PICC line for a month. And then they took the PICC line out and put a new port in. And so, but anyway, yeah. So I ended up having, what was I saying? whatever it was, what was I saying?
I don't know, 3 to 5 weeks, and you noticed it
Oh
was
yes,
shrinking.
I know. Sorry, yes, that's a chemo side effect, is literally memory loss.
Really? Like,
Pretty sure. I
it's at least you got it out, you got it there ready at any point.
I've heard a lot of women. It's like pregnancy brain. You know, pregnancy brain.
Yes, I know that
It's
one.
very similar to that. You just kind of all of a sudden, it's like, what's that? What am I thinking of? What's that word? It's a very, you ask any woman who's had breast cancer and they're going to say, yes, that happens. I noticed the tumor had shrunk. I couldn't feel it as much. And so it didn't shrink up completely, but it did come down. And the doctor said, that's really good, because there's two things that can happen. Sometimes the chemo drug is so strong that it can explode the cancer. Okay. And then you've got little pieces.
Good God.
Which could make it a little bit more challenging. Or the idea is to kind of shrivel it off and like melt it, kind of kill it that way. And so mine did that. And so they were able to, when they did my lumpectomy, they were able to get great margins around it. So all the margins, no cancer was in the margins. It took out the lymph node. I think I had 7 lymph nodes removed. You have anywhere from 20 to 24
Yeah.
arm area.
I was going to ask you that, because in your armpit is lymph nodes are there, and that's a pretty common place for people. And again, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, that's like a common cancer location, I guess, right? So was that part of yours, or did they just do that as like a precaution, or what was that?
My cancer had spread into my lymph node. So it looks, I think from what we understand, my tumor and lymph node were very close to each other. So I think in the very beginning, they were getting them confused of which one was the lymph node and which one was the tumor. I thought what I was feeling was the lymph node, but upon surgery, I was feeling the actual mass, the cancer tumor, and the lymph node was next to it. But it had stopped after one lymph node. But they have to take that lymph node out, and they take out a few to the left and right of it just to make sure it didn't, seep through. So, but mine had all come back negative, except for obviously that one. So that was good. So I had to have 7 removed, plus they got clear margins around the cancer. So,
and I know you're going to get this stuff. So I have 2 questions.
mm-hmm.
What are the short or long-term side effects of reduced estrogen? And then the same with removing 7 lymph nodes. And I really don't know.
That's a great question, because the lymph nodes they can be breast lymph nodes, or they could be more auxiliary lymph nodes. And so I was told, and they were correct, that lymphedema could be a side effect, but my lymphedema is probably going to happen in my breast versus my arm. And so I have mild lymphedema now in my breast.
And what is that?
That is the collection of that interstitial, is that the right word? That water through because your lymphatic system is underneath your skin and your whole entire body, but you have very specific pathways for all those fluids to drain out and expunge your body of all the ickies. Right? So when you get sick, your lymph nodes build up.
Okay.
And then you have to pass it through. Don't ask me how, but through the liver, I'm assuming, or the kidneys. I don't know.
We're going into the wrong.
Before I got on this call. So basically, with those lymph nodes removed, now my body is trying to figure out, hey, I need to move this fluid, but I'm 7 lymph nodes short over here. So my breast might not be removing that fluid, those toxins appropriately and efficiently. So I have to, kind of give myself what they call like lymphatic massage to talk to I talk to my body and tell my body, this is what we're doing now. And we're going to get it out of the breast and we're going to move it into those areas where it can drain properly. So that's basically the short of it for me. I think some people can have other complications, but that's mine. And so I cannot speak for other people. I can only speak for myself. And the tamoxifen, because it's an estrogen, so chemo pushed me into menopause. Chemotherapy forced me into menopause.
Wow. Okay.
Was I headed there already? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably a couple of years, based on my age and how my menstrual cycle was. But this definitely, like, it's just bam, you're done having periods after the first round of chemo. You're done having periods, and I didn't really recognize anything at the time. But who's to say my side effects were they chemo related? Was it because I had gone into menopause? Is it all? I'm going to say it's all the above. So periods haven't come back. Sometimes they can come back after you have cancer, after you have chemo, and mine did not. So I am still on tamoxifen because when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was premenopausal, or, I wasn't in menopause yet. So that's why I get the tamoxifen. I think women who have breast cancer, but they're postmenopausal, then I think their regimen is different. Okay. Again, I won't speak on that. I only speak on myself. So, so mine, the tamoxifen, yes, it's basically suppressing my estrogen. So I have achy joints, which has gotten better. It was really bad when I first started on it. I've been on tamoxifen now about a month and a half, 2 months, and I feel like the side effects look better. So there is a list of side effects that can happen, and I won't go through all of them. But for me, it's my kids say I'm really emotional, but I don't, that doesn't, to me, I'm like, well, wait, why am I crying about this if my estrogen is not high and it's low? I thought estrogen created emotions for women. That's why women were emotional, because they had so much estrogen. So I don't know.
I don't know either.
I just could be emotional because that's just, I don't know, it's just me. I don't know. I mean,
I cry, but I have a BA in theater, so.
Well, exactly. And I I should have gotten at least a minor in theater, because if you asked me to cry, I could cry right now.
There you go. See?
I'm that good of an actress. Just like that.
Oh, poor Tom.
But yeah, the one thing for me really is like some achiness in my joints and stuff. So like if I'm sitting still for too long and I go to stand up, I always say, like, I'm kind of like reminiscent of like an 80-year-old getting out of a chair. I don't just spring out of the chair and just go running. It's like kind of like, and then a few steps, and then they get a little oiled up, and then I'm walking more normal after 20 paces. So, yeah.
So did you go through all the typical side effects during chemo, where, nausea and everything else that went along with that?
I did, yes. The chemo, they give you a list. So they give you, with each drug, there's all the information about the drug. And as I went through the 4 drugs and the list of side effects, potential side effects, this happens between 0 and 15% of our people. This is a rare one. Then you've got the more common that happens between 15 and 30%. This happens in more than 30%. I was unfortunate that I fell into that uncommon group for a few of mine. You read about it, you're like, oh, hope it doesn't happen to me. And it's like, oh, shoot, it's happening to me. Like, okay. I ended up, because I couldn't manage what was happening, I put together, before I started chemo, I put together a spreadsheet of the day I was receiving chemo, and because they say everything happens between 3 and 9 days are the worst side effects. And as you go through chemo, it becomes more cumulative. So the effects can last longer and they can get worse. Obviously, I mean, you're 6 rounds of chemo, right? So I put together a spreadsheet so I could track myself. So I was tracking my blood pressure, my weight, and then all the side effects they listed, I put them all on the top, and I would just check them off when I got them and how I got them. And there are a lot of side effects. There's a lot. And some of them don't happen right away. Some of them happened after rounds 4, 5, and 6. You also have side effects 2 months out. You can still have side effects. Like one of them that really bothered me, that doesn't sound bad, but it's an annoyance, is eye twitching. Your eye twitches. And it's not this one down here that can happen like with stress. It's the eyelid fluttering over the eye and pulling. The eyelid would pull. So I couldn't stop it. And it would be worse sometimes, and it would go away a little bit. And I feel like it was worse when I would look at like a computer and then change and start talking to somebody to the left or right of my computer screen. If I looked at my phone and then looked at the computer. So I don't know if it was my eyes adjusting that kicked it off, or if it was just the chemo, and I just tended to notice it at those times. But that was really annoying when you're trying to talk to somebody and your eyelids are just like constantly doing this over your eye, and you can't rub it away and you can't stop it, and you just feel it all the time. But that's a mild one. Like, don't get me wrong, I would take that over some of the other side effects, hands down, no questions asked. Yes, I'll take that for the rest of my life. So I mean, there's just so many things that happened. Dirk, that happened after surgery. So you stop your chemo. I stopped mine. I had mine on the 30th, the day before Halloween was my last round of chemo. And then I had my surgery December 3rd. And then you start radiation. They like to do everything within like 3 or 4 weeks. So you finish your chemo 3 or 4 weeks later. This is like what they just lay out for you. 3 or 4 weeks later, you're going to start your surgery. Then 3 or 4 weeks later after surgery, you're going to start radiation. And then when radiation's over, we're going to start on that tamoxifen pill, basically, as soon as possible type thing. So, and I did pretty much follow everything outside of the MRSA, putting 2 weeks break on my chemo. Everything else did fall for me within the 3 to 4 week time frame. So,
and that's a dangerous infection, isn't it?
So it's a really dangerous infection, and I apparently had a really bad side effect, or a reaction to the meds. So I know when I got it, I don't want to call anybody out, but I was at my daughter's soccer games. It was after the round of chemo, still in my hair. My hair hadn't fallen out yet. And I got heat exhaustion. But the heat exhaustion just came to me much faster than I had anticipated because of the chemo drugs. So here we are at a soccer tournament, and I just had to run off I was throwing up. And so lightheaded, I couldn't really walk. And by the time, like my mom, it was so dramatic. It was so crazy. So my husband had to stay with my daughter because she's playing in the tournament. My mom, luckily we had 2 cars, and my mom drives me. We try to go to a CVS. I don't even know why we're going to a CVS, but I had to use I wanted to throw up in a bathroom, basically. So we go to the CVS, and we're in the bathroom, and I can't walk. I cannot walk out of there. And my mom's trying to ask, we're in a different area of San Diego. My mom's trying to ask the people who work there, where's the closest urgent care or hospital? I need to take my daughter because she's sick. Nobody really could help us. And they didn't want me there. They kind of wanted me to leave because, I don't know, I'm like, I'm not some hobo just hanging out in the bathroom. Like, so my mom, they wouldn't help us. So my mom
What the heck?
My mom had to come. She asked for some plastic bags to take in the car with us. I finally, I'm stable. My mom gets me back out to the car, and we get to the nearest urgent care. And I thought having a port, it's the best access my port, because supposedly your veins kind of just disappear with chemo, and it's harder to get an IV in.
Okay.
So I asked them to go ahead and utilize my port to give me fluids and stuff. And I do remember the nurse acting a little bit nervous about it, but she didn't say to me, you know what, I haven't done this in a while. I'm really uncomfortable doing this, and we don't have anyone else here to do it. Are you okay if she would have said that to me, I would have said, here's my arm, figure it out. But she didn't say anything, and I just assumed they knew what they were doing. I said, have you guys worked with port? She said yes. And the port was infected within 5 or 6 days after. I couldn't turn my head, and it hurt to turn my head. And as I looked, it was red. This whole area was just bright red.
Yeah.
So I go to the hospital, and you're spending the whole day in the urgent care again. This is 1 week later, and different urgent care. I'm sorry, different urgent care, but you're there all day. And at the point, I said, I can't breathe. I feel like there's pressure right here. I'm having a hard time taking a breath. At that point, you say that, and you're getting tested for everything.
Heart attack, and
Echo.
yeah.
It was everything. So I don't know at what point they realized it. I don't even remember, but they give me some sort of really strong antibiotic, but they pushed it through fast. And I learned this later, that you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to administer it very slowly because people can have a reaction like an extremely high fever. So my fever went up to 104.7. I had aches like it's nobody's business. I almost couldn't see straight. It was, and I didn't know what the reaction was. Is it because of the meds? Is it because of my, infection? So they send me up. I'm sent into the hospital. And I spent 4 or 5 days there, and they talked about, we need to remove that port. And so the infectious doctor I had and the regular doctor, they decided, so I went into surgery. I don't even remember what day it was. One morning I went in, they had the port removed. They started administering the drug, the antibiotic they were giving me for 2 days. Even though they slowed it down, I still was having crazy reaction to it. So they switched me to a different antibiotic. I don't remember the names of these things. And by day 4, then I had the port removed, but I had to have a PICC line put in because I still had to go through my chemo. So I'm just laying there in my room, and they're putting a PICC line in, and he is struggling with it. It was great. The stuff you go through, like, it was just nuts. So this guy's trying to put my PICC line in. I'm finally reacting better to the meds. It's day 4. But I remember backing up a little bit. I'm going into the surgery to have the port removed, and I'm at 104.3 fever.
Yeah.
Laying there waiting for surgery. Like, there's just nothing that could have been done, I guess. Like, they give me all my, it was just insane, Dirk. And my husband was there with me. My friend Annie had flown in from Texas to be with me. And it was just insane. It was an insane time. I'm just so miserable, but I'm thinking, just get this port out. So they get the port out. The day later, I get the PICC line put in. And sure enough, a PICC line, they're sticking that wire in through your arm to hit one of your main veins into your heart. And they lay they lay like this piece of equipment on your chest, and it's beeping along to tell the wire where to go. And so mine's beeping the wrong way, and I'm just laying there and I'm being still. And it's like 45 minutes. I can tell there's a ton of blood coming out, like all over the, it looks like a murder scene when he was all done with it. And he was fantastic, but he just couldn't, my wire kept going up and he wanted it to go down or something like that. So finally, after 45, this thing should have happened within 30 minutes. It's close to an hour now. My husband's nervous. He's outside. They're not allowed in because we don't want to contaminate the air in the area. So they had to be outside. Finally, I forget what his name was. He says, take a deep breath for me. And I took a deep breath. And at that point, the machine went, boop, it beeped the right way. He's like, I'm in. And he, because I looked at him. He was such a cool guy. I'm like, are you doing okay? Because I feel like this is taking a long time. He's like, it is taking a long time. I'm really good at this. And I'm very challenged with your body right now because I don't know why it's not going the right way. I said, well, do what you need to do. I'm not going to talk to you. He let me play whatever music I wanted to play on my radio, just to keep me calm, whatever. So so when he got it, he was ecstatic. He's like, I got it. I'm like, oh, thank God. Okay. And then I have a PICC line. Well, PICC line has to be managed by a nurse once a week. And my husband had to give me the antibiotics daily for 2 weeks post the hospital. So they taught my husband how to utilize my PICC line, how to clean it properly, administer my antibiotics for 2 weeks. And then as soon as that was done and I was good, it was right back into chemo. They were like, are you good? I'm like, yes, I'm good. So I went to chemo. And they don't stop. It is a tight schedule. I remember I finally got the PICC line removed and got my port put in. And literally I got my port put in on a Monday, and I went for chemo in my port on the Tuesday. It hurts, you can't numb it. It's killing you. And there's stitches still around. It's just extremely uncomfortable, but it stayed on. So I was glad. Yeah. So.
Wow. Well, you definitely that's your unique story, part of it. How long did your mom stay with you?
Well, my mom lives with us.
Oh, she lives with you now?
Yeah, she moved in with us. And the house we're in now, my mom moved in with us. So she actually closed up shop, left Missouri, and moved in with us. So she's been living with us since we bought this house, so 2016. Yeah, so she's been here. So that's been amazing having my mom, especially during this time, to be there with the kids,
Yeah.
kind of help out with everything. It was truly a blessing. I mean, there are so many people there in such different and more difficult situations than we are, so I can't complain.
Yeah. Wow. What else? I had something else to ask you. I can't remember what it was, but that's just, I mean, I don't even think of all that, everything that can go along there. There's so many things that can go wrong or hit you, and,
I know. Well,
vulnerable.
you meet other women. Like, I took a cancer class, and that's before I started chemo, and that's where they take you on a tour of the facility, talk to you about what you're going to go through, what you can, supplements you need to avoid, things you can take, not take. Everyone's got questions, and kind of just prepping you for what's in store. And the ladies I met, I absolutely love them. We still talk very frequently now through text a lot. And when one of them, her cancer didn't react as well to the meds. She had to change up her meds halfway. The other lady, we had very similar cancer. We both reacted the same way, but then I had the MRSA hiccups. So I was like, we all had ourselves jockeying in positions. I was the first one, then there was one, number two, then number three. Then I had MRSA. I dropped down to third place. Now she took up fourth, and now this girl in second place. She had to change up her meds. She did surgery halfway through. We ended up doing the 6 rounds, and all of a sudden we ended up going very different paths, even though, yes, we all stayed kind of similar. So I kind of feel like I dealt with the most challenges early on with getting MRSA and during chemo. That for me, the smooth sailing came for me during like radiation. I was very fortunate with radiation that my skin didn't completely come apart, which can happen, which I can't speak the same for my friend. Her skin, both of them had very difficult reactions with their radiation. I mean, everything, because the radiation comes up to here and crosses and goes under the arm, goes down the breast and over. You radiate the entire area. And I kept my skin from breaking, except for under the armpit, where they had to zero in for my last. You get 30 rounds of radiation, and the last 5 are the exact same power that they utilize all over the entire breast, get zeroed into that one small area. So yes, my skin tore. Sure. I mean, I don't think it was going to not, but I think some people have it a lot worse, and it's hard to have 2nd-degree burns and you're still having to go and get radiation, because when the radiation's over, the radiation's not over. It's your body's still processing that and eliminating it. And so you're having side effects, and your skin is hot. Your skin is red. It's very sensitive. I mean, sensitive to everything. So it makes, things very challenging, I guess. But I had it really good. I think my challenge was early on with the MRSA. That was my big moment. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're poisoning your body, right? And that's kind of most of the clinical trials and tests are doing now, is try to find ways to treat any cancer without poisoning yourself. And I'm hopeful that, my kids, when they are our age, there'll just be a lot more options for it at that point. But, who knows? This has been going on for 30 plus years.
And it is. There are drug trials you can join, when there's places you can go to get those therapies done, different approach. My husband being in clinical research that he's in, and we just both recognized, for me, because it does come down, you have choices. Just because you're diagnosed with cancer doesn't mean you have to do this. I made the choice to take this traditional method of managing it. Some people don't. Some people go and do other things. Some people don't do anything. I chose this. This is what fit us the best, and I'm very happy. I poisoned the heck out of my body. And the radiation, yes, there's always side effects that come with radiation. They're very minimal. It's not like, you have radiation, there's a 50% chance of breast cancer increase. It's not like that. It is single digits. It's very, very low, but those chances are there. Those chances are out in the environment every day.
Mm-hmm.
Where we breathe, the sunlight, the radiation from electronic, I mean, everything. There are things all over, all around, all the time. So I can only speak for myself. I chose this route. It worked phenomenally for me. Like I said, I've been really happy with my experience, and I can only speak for myself. I would never wish cancer on my worst enemy ever. But at least I know, with it, what the experience I made, it actually was somewhat pleasant,
So you're cancer-free now.
I'm cancer-free. That's right.
And the lump has been removed.
Mm-hmm.
But you're finishing up medication for the next 2 or 3 months, it sounds like.
There's a new lump. Now it's my scar tissue.
Okay. Yeah, don't say that.
Well, sometimes I'm always scared. I'm like, what? It's my scar tissue. It's like a hard lump. And
yeah.
And there's pains, there's pangs that come through my skin, I think, post-radiation and stuff. But yes, I am through. The hard part's over, and I've always approached all of it with a very welcoming attitude. My mindset has been accept what's happening to my body and welcome it in, acknowledge that it's helping me, and I need to help the medicine with my mindset that it's going to work, because there is no science to prove the theory of, the power of the brain, so to speak. But I think that if you are having something done to you and you don't like the idea of having it done to you, right? Like radiation, and you fight radiation. I don't want radiation. I fear it and I hate it and I don't like it and it's bad. I believe that can cause a worse reaction. And I had to tell myself every day in that radiation dressing room, when you're undressing, they have to come get you, and there's a little mirror there. And every day I looked in that mirror and I said, this is good for me. And then I would sit down and I would say a prayer, and I would pray for my radiation techs and my doctor and everyone that was surrounded by me. And I just prayed that they were being guided by love and light, and that we're doing the right thing. And that was it. And I do believe that had a very positive reaction on me, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah, if nothing else, keeping positive through it. You've got to give yourself a chance to survive with your family. I mean, you've got a family, right? You've got people around you that if you're negative, that flows, that hits everyone that you touch.
It does.
No matter your situation.
Well, I've got negative people in my life where you almost can, it's almost their aura, where you think, I don't even want to know this person. I don't want to talk to this person. And they're so incredibly negative. And I'm a very, I consider myself to have a high emotional intelligence, and I'm very sympathetic and with people. And sometimes I can take on too much, where if somebody is hurting, I almost pull it into myself, which can be very damaging and very unhealthy. So yes, it was very important for me to keep my mindset, to make light of it. I would make jokes about cancer all the time in my family. So when I was going through chemo and my surgery, and I didn't want to get up and get a drink of water, I would ask my kids, hey, can you make me a glass of water? And they would just look at me, because my kids are lazy. And I'd say, I have cancer. You have to do this for me because I have cancer. And they are like, God, Mom, fine. Then they give me the water or whatever. And then, and that was I just do that out there all the time. But I have cancer. No, you have to stop fighting. I have cancer. Stop fighting.
That's fair.
Cancer. I had surgery, I had it removed, whatever. And then I kept trying to use that after radiation. And they were like, no, you don't. You don't have cancer. You need a new excuse. And I'm like, you're right. Damn it. I don't have it anymore. It's like, shoot.
Just do it. Just tell them to do it.
Do it,
So have you talked to your doctors about long-term, like what the future holds, or is that something that's a conversation for when you finish the medication? Or
I mean, right now, no, it's, my doctors are really happy and with how everything's gone. And it's just, I do my maintenance every 3 weeks. I'll stay on tamoxifen 5 to 10 years. I do get my mammogram. My next mammogram and ultrasound will be done in December. That's 1 year post-surgery. And then I don't know if I'll do it every year. I'm guessing I'll probably do it every year because of my history, but I don't know. But I think the farther out you get, the more lenient they become. The reins loosen up a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty regimented, but then, post-cancer, you kind of want that. It's like, I want you to look at me and scan me. Like, I want to make sure nothing has popped up anywhere else.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, it's pretty much like, you're just, you do not have cancer. You are considered somebody who had it and who no longer has it. And, you're good to go. And so I feel like extremely optimistic about everything. Like, for me, it's just it was a blip in the road. It's an experience to make. I'm not going to say it was a great experience to make. I'm not going to say it was a horrible, I made it. It is what it is. I'm done. I can take from it good or I can take from it bad. I choose to take good from it and move forward in my life. So, but yeah, there's really no like long-term strategy necessarily. It's just.
So have your doctors considered you like a higher risk during coronavirus, or is that something that, because I know from, go ahead.
That's a great question. Because I asked that right away, because I wasn't working and just healing, coming off radiation at the end of February. So I knew coronavirus was happening in China because I read the news.
Hey.
Global news, not just local or statewide. I like listen to BBC and NPR and things like that. And I knew this was happening. It looked like it wasn't going to go away. And if anyone has 2 brain cells, this stuff is going to spread fast. So I asked the doctors early on. I sent a message through my portal. I'm like, hey, I still have to get infusions. Am I considered immunocompromised? And they just said, no, you're not immunocompromised because we're not doing it. We're not doing anything to suppress your immune system. I'm just getting this, my antibodies. So no. But then it was a little bit later. It was like, yeah, I go, but my I'm not considered high risk, but I think I need to be really careful. Also, my mother lives with us and my mother's 69. Now, is she healthy? Yes. Does she have underlying health conditions? No. Do we understand how COVID works 100%? No.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Living through history. So I think the idea is to caution on the side of err, or err on the side of caution, and just be smart, and be safe. So I'm not like, when it's time to do the groceries, I send my husband out, even though more men have died than women. I think more men have been infected than women. But I'm like, you go to the store, you do the shopping, and he comes home and cleans it all up, and and that's
fine. You make the list for him? Because I demand a list, because if I come home with stuff that I can't remember the right things or I get the wrong brand, I always demand a list.
Yes, but shopping with a list now for a man is great because you can't buy half the stuff on your list anyway.
That's true.
So now it's not that you forgot it. You can just say they didn't have any and you're fine.
Or you're taking whatever brand of toilet paper is available, right?
Exactly. Yes. This is all we could get. Yeah.
Exactly. So tell me about your shirt, and does that have a story behind it, or did you just buy it at random, or?
So yeah, so my shirt says "Not Today," and that is a reference to Game of Thrones, also yes. Breast cancer right there. And I don't remember. I think it was so when I was diagnosed, and I announced it on Facebook to my friends and family, because you go through that idea of, do I want to? I know people who kept it very quiet, didn't say anything, and they just dealt with it. I know people who are very open with it, and my reason was, I don't know what this is going to do for me in my life, and so because there is the chance you start thinking of your mortality, and not because there's the worst case scenarios for cancer are really bad scenarios. but you have to be informed of all the different ones. And no doctor can tell you what you're going to do, how you're going to handle it. This is what we're going to do for you, but how your body responds is a mystery at this point. So I felt like I'm going to announce it, because if anything, I could use some prayers. I could use some positive thoughts. I could use some good vibes, anything. I don't care what it is, but if anyone can send me any sort of love and light, I will take it. And also, kind of in a dark, weird way, is the worst case scenario. If something happens to me and I don't make it out of this alive, I'm not surprising people and they're going, "Oh my God, Amber just, died from breast cancer? Like, that's great." I don't know. Because at that time, I don't even think I even knew what stage I was. And there was more in my body. I think I was still being tested to see if it had gone to my bones, if it had gone to my brain. So when you do that and you put it out there, all of a sudden you get a gift in the mail and you're getting things you didn't think. I didn't even know this stuff existed, like these, excuse my language, but these fuck cancer coloring books. It's a thing. They exist. Didn't know that, but I got a couple, and just these little things here and there. And so I think I actually bought this one for myself. I was on like the Etsy looking up breast cancer shirts. I don't know. I think I just searched up breast cancer shirts. And I saw this, and I love Game of Thrones. We had just finished the last season, and I was like, I love this. I love that saying. And that also was an affirmation, or to reaffirm me that this is not going to go poorly. This is going to happen well for me. And so I need to tell myself that. And sometimes just putting the words on your chest, it's like, not today. You are not getting me. I'm not doing this. And it's just helps.
So you watch Game of Thrones all the way through, and I binged it in like 2 months. So yeah, all of it.
Oh God.
I had never seen it. I watched it, and I saw it when I had the ending. So the ending didn't bother me as much because I wasn't waiting. Like, it bothered a whole lot of people, but I didn't wait like a year for it. So how did the ending and the final season hit you of Game of Thrones?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a disappointment. I also realized, though, that I had built it up to be something that I'm not sure any ending could have made me truly happy. But I recognized the writers did the best they could at the time, and I had to appreciate it for that. And I had to tell myself, but you love the show, love where it's gone. I mean, you watch from season 1, first 3 episodes, to the last season. You can the production alone just took it somewhere. Yeah. I don't think they ever thought it was going to go. So I was not happy with the ending, but I wasn't going to complain about it, I guess, kind of thing. I wasn't going to. Some of those people get online and they're just, talking about it forever. And I thought, I don't know. It's a show.
Right.
It did its job. I was entertained.
There you go.
Yeah.
So a couple more things. This has been, it's fascinating and just incredible. Some of the things you talk about, I hadn't even considered. So that's really amazing. But so you talked about getting on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. Talk a little bit more about your support groups, because you said you made some friends, like there were 3 of you and you were going first, third, second, et cetera. And you said it's real easy to find, but can you talk a little bit more about that for somebody that might be looking for support or looking for someone to talk to?
So the first line of support comes at you through your friends, who everybody knows somebody very quickly. You recognize, you don't know this beforehand. You kind of know a little bit here and there, but all of a sudden you realize somebody, almost every woman I would run into, knows someone who had breast cancer or who was going through it. And so they want to put you in touch with the people. And I wasn't quite ready for that, to have a conversation, because I thought, if they're going to ask me questions, I don't even know what to say. I'm still learning about it. And I'm also not just learning about it, but you have to process it. 2 different things, right? You can read all day long about breast cancer, but when you have to apply it to yourself and process it and accept it, very different. And so for me, having a face-to-face or even a phone call conversation with somebody else, I recognized I'm not ready for that, because I might have to all of a sudden either accept things forced on me at a weird time or whatever. And I don't know how else to explain it. But through Instagram and Facebook, specifically actually Instagram, you can search people by hashtags, right? And so I just searched out breast cancer. I was like, I don't even know what the freaking verbiage is. What do people say? What are the cool sayings for breast cancer? Fuck, I have no idea. So I was like, breast cancer fighter, breast cancer survivor. Like, I'm not a survivor. I'm not there yet. I'm the fighter part. Breast cancer warrior. So you just start searching all this stuff. Well, all of a sudden you find these pictures of people's posts, and you can click on their posts and you can read about them, and they either say it in their story or they don't. You have to go, and all of a sudden I'm going down this rabbit hole, spending the afternoon searching out people. But I started realizing, follow. You just choose to follow them. And reading their story was easier for me than having to have a communication right then and there with someone, because I can choose when to read about their story. I can choose how much of their story I want to read. And when it became overwhelming, I can put it down and walk away from it. And that was good for me, because I wasn't forced to listen to someone's story. If you have someone on the phone and they tell your story, I don't want to be a jerk and be like, you know what, I can't hear that. I can't listen to you anymore. Like, they'll be like, but you called me. And I'm like, I know I called you. It was just, I was like, I could just see this conversation going terrible so quickly. I thought, I'm not calling anybody. So the Instagram way was, and I could find women specifically with ER and HER2 positive breast cancer, because as great as it is to speak to a breast cancer survivor, someone who's triple negative versus me, our chemo drugs are different. Our regimen is different. Our side effects are different. I don't want to just talk to people who have cancer. That's not uplifting. That doesn't help me at all. I want to talk to someone who's got my cancer, and also choosing the therapy that I'm choosing. So, so that helped whittle that down, right? Because I quickly realized all these people I had met, nobody really had my cancer. So that I'm aware of. And if they did, I apologize. I didn't call. Maybe at some point we'll call and chit chat about it. So you find these people, and all of a sudden you read their comment, and people are just pouring out their hearts and talking about. Some women, you could tell, had a very scared feeling approach towards it. Some women were trying to stay really positive. Some women, it wasn't their first round. It wasn't even their second round. That's the heartbreaking one, is when you read about somebody. I'm going through my first round, and I'm reading someone who's talking about it being their third, and now they have a different cancer on top of it. And then you're like, oh God, do I even want to read this? Like, if I read it, will it happen to me? These stupid thoughts. It doesn't make any sense, but you can only handle so much, I guess. Mm-hmm. But some women are very eloquent writers, and they're saying things. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I want to say. I don't have the words, and I love the way she's saying it. So you hit that like button. And then I found myself, they all of a sudden started following me back. And then it was like, okay, do I really want to start? How do I want to handle this? Some of these women are documenting their breast cancer journey completely on Instagram, like pictures, even like of their breast and the scars and everything that happened to them, they put on Instagram. And I was like, do I want to do that? How do I want to be? How do I want to make this experience? And then I realized that's not me. I don't want to hide it, but I don't want to force all of my friends and family who follow me I don't want to force them to read my stuff all the time. I don't want to force everyone to, oh, there's Amber and her cancer again. Here I was in a good mood, and then I got to read about the breast cancer, and if I don't like it, I look like an asshole, so now I got to like it, but I'm not going to read it. And I don't want to put that on other people either. I don't want to be we're inundated with bad news. You turn the TV on, you're inundated with bad news. So, and then there's the Facebook news, which is the fake news, where everything's happy and great and our lives are wonderful, and look at our dinner, and look at my kids, and I don't want to be that person either. I'm calling people out right now, aren't I? Everyone's like, that's me, you jerk. And I've also learned to become a lot more private in my years. So as I've embraced my privacy, and I love my privacy, the cancer thing was like, well, but maybe I need to come out, because maybe I know somebody who might have that lump under their armpit, and they chose not to do it, I want to make sure to say, don't do what I did. Go get it checked out. Go get a second opinion and get a third opinion. And you're not crazy for wanting 3 opinions. You're not crazy for wondering this or that,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just documented it incrementally, not a lot, a little bit here, a little bit there. And other women who had it would like it, and they would make comments. Thank you for saying what you did. You put a smile on my face. I love how you're funny with how you approach it, or things like that, and it was, I liked that made me feel good that they said that. And I'm glad that I could put a smile on their face, and vice versa. And, you realize everyone handles it differently, and everyone puts it out there differently. And that's the nice thing about social media, I guess, because you can kind of choose, do I want to, look at this now or not? As I go on Instagram now, I'm post-cancer. Because of the likes of all the breast cancer people, now I get more breast cancer patients, survivors, warriors on my
Mm-hmm.
feed versus anything else. So now I'm like, okay, I don't want to get on Instagram and see 10 women who were just diagnosed with HER2 positive breast cancer. So it's a double-edged sword. I'm like, so I don't go on Instagram sometimes. I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just that I just don't want to constantly have to think about it. I don't want to ignore it and pretend it didn't happen, but I don't want to always be reminded of, I don't know that I can be that cheerleader for everybody else, where I spend an hour on Instagram going to each person who has cancer and telling them, you're doing a good job, you're doing it right, good for you. I shaved my head too. I didn't let my hair fall out. Whatever it is that's happening with them, it's like, I can't do it. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. So
I guess that's one of the benefits of social media is it's got something for everybody. And every mood that everybody might have. Like you said, one day you're in the mood to go read 3 or 4 stories, and the next day you're like, I just need to push through this day or whatever. And then there's the person like you that you want to be open and honest about it, but you don't necessarily need to get every detail out there. But that person that has the need to do that can do that. And then that becomes available. It's kind of this good circle. That's one of the good things we've got built in with social media. We got all the side stuff that we're still getting used to and figuring out, but that's a real benefit.
It is. And the benefit is, yes, you can seek it out. Some of them, I don't know, maybe I'm not using Facebook right, but Facebook, I don't have the choice to search. It's whoever I'm friends with, I'm forced to read their story. And sometimes I'm just like,
it can be exhausting.
It's exhausting because you think about it. You go on to it in an attitude, in a mindset. And all of a sudden, you're reading about something that completely is not where you were. And now you're all of a sudden sad, or now you're maybe, a little bit happy, or happy part's never bad, but
you're angry.
I don't want to see. It's not that I don't care, but a little bit's like, I don't care. Really, honestly, if we didn't have Facebook, I would not know what people are eating for dinner every night. I'm okay. My life is fulfilled without knowing what you're putting in your mouth every day. As beautiful as your meal may be, I don't think I need to know it. And it's like that with every facet. Maybe I'm antisocial. I don't know. I realize I'm not on it. I don't go on Facebook as much because I just, but it's nice. But then in a way, it's like, what's going on with these people? And then I want to see. So I choose it as opposed to going on Facebook every day and then getting frustrated with what's falling in front of my face. It's like, I just won't go to Facebook. And then when I want to know, I got to go to Facebook knowing I might be inundated with something really bad, tragic, sad, surprising, whatever it is, boring. But I'm choosing that now. Like, I'm in control of that time. I'm going to spend my 45 minutes flipping through Facebook, not learning a damn thing, but then I can close it. So I think I've just taken a healthier approach since I was diagnosed with cancer.
Sure.
With social media. Yeah.
Well, just awesome. Just amazing stuff. I'm really, you're clearly not antisocial.
talker.
No way.
Don't get me one-on-one ever. Put me in a large group and I'll be quiet. But you get me one-on-one and watch out.
I know that feeling. I can relate to that. I can relate. So
Yeah.
is there any, I don't have any more questions. I mean, this has been, I mean, what a journey and what a positive story that maybe some, people can take some light from. And I appreciate you sharing. I really do. And I've kind of watched you. You put it on Facebook and I saw it there. And then, like you said, you weren't posting daily, but I was very interested just because he was concerned about you. You're like this distant little sister that we had, right? So,
right.
yeah.
Well, I would get so many nice messages, and this is, I just bashed Facebook for the last hour, so maybe I need to backtrack a little bit. I had so many people who I didn't know if they remembered me, much about me from high school days, or from college, or even previous jobs that I had. But I had so many people who would instant message. They didn't even go through, like they went to the private channel to say, Amber, I just read your story and I am absolutely heartbroken. And I want you to know that I've got my whole family praying for you. And if there's anything you need, let me know. And I know we don't talk anymore, but to know that my story had affected them, it would bring me to, every time I'd get one of these, I was like, oh God, here we go. I'm going to cry because one, I didn't know, I'm honored. I'm completely honored that people would say those things to me and think of me that way and think enough to actually write, because you can think all you want, but to take the action to write a message it's energy, it's caring, it's amazing, really, in this day and age where you can just heart something and move on. And I was always completely dumbfounded and honored by all of that, by the people that would reach out to me, and almost embarrassed sometimes. I was like, oh, like I don't, why are they being so nice to me? Like, I don't even know, I'm not that nice of a person back. Like I'm not, I don't know. It was really amazing. And I think for me, honestly, the whole takeaway from it, and of course I'm constantly evolving, I'm constantly learning, we all are, and we all change. But I just kind of felt like I want people to know what happened. And I want people to know that, if it happens to them, you can find the light in it. You can find the lightheartedness of it. And no matter how people choose to share that with others, it's all okay. You don't have, just because of Instagram, we don't have to document everything. Like there was times where I was totally chatty about it because I kind of almost needed people to tell me, I'm reading, I'm here with you, I see what's going on, and I love you, and you're in my thoughts. And then there's other times where I'm like, I'm just done. I don't want to share this anymore. Like during my radiation, 30 days of radiation, it is Monday through Friday for 6 weeks. I don't really need to tell everybody how that's going. It's radiation. I mean, you could watch any YouTube video and figure it out really quickly. And it wasn't like I was depressed during that time. I just didn't feel like inundating everybody with my journey. Just because I'm taking that journey, you don't have to take it. Like you don't have to take it, but here's what I am going to tell you about my journey. I'm going to tell you enough so that if and when you do take that, you at least have somebody ahead of you 10 steps off to the left or the right who you can check in with that might be able to give you some information or helpful, just a shoulder to cry on or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think people, you don't know how. I have met some people since I was diagnosed that have since been diagnosed with cancer. And all I say to them is, however you're feeling is okay. However you want to act about it is okay. There is no right way or wrong way. And if you want to call me and complain, you can. If you want to call and scream at how unfair the world is, I'm all ears. If you want to call and make jokes about it, I will laugh along with you. because every person, it is so, yes, it is cancer, breast cancer, brain cancer, whatever the cancers are. But for each person, it's a completely individual journey.
And on that, unless you got more, do you have more to add? I think that's a really great way to wrap it up right there. That's so perfect. Well, we're one-on-one, so what?
I'm parched. But there's.
So I'll just wrap it up by saying, thank you for taking the time. I mean, and it's just really good to hear from you and to hear the way you approached everything and made it through. And hopefully that can have an impact on somebody, or maybe, who knows? Who knows? I'm just really thanks for sharing. And to anybody who listened, I am looking for any amazing regular people that that you can have reach out. I'm going to put an email address on the screen right now. You can email to that address to let me know. I'm looking for people to talk to. Any amazing stories from people that are regular people, not celebrities. I feel like there's so much that we can all share with each other for the real struggles and pain we've been through, and would love to hear your stories and spend some time talking to you. And I guess if you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes, go ahead and subscribe and like this. And wow, Amber Ressmer, thanks for taking the time to tell us all this.
It was a pleasure to share my story, and I apologize if I lost anyone's interest. I'm not that boring, but I do talk a lot. Well, thank you, Dirk, for giving me a chance to voice myself. I appreciate it.
And if they heard you say that you apologize, they obviously have not lost interest. So there you go.
There we go, because it's at the very end.
All right. Thank you, Amber.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself.
You too.
Take care. Bye.